Welcome everybody again to the 1860 Club. It's a great pleasure today to introduce Alex Lewis, former coach of the club, coached Preston for 4 years during the 2000 teens and is still involved in the club, also played with the club. Alex, welcome.
How are you, Lee?
You've got one hell of a story, Alex. It goes back a long time, and I'm fascinated by it, and I dare say a lot of people will be fascinated by it. If we just touch for a minute on your heritage, you were born in Thailand.
Yeah, born in Thailand. Adopted, got here when I was 2. It's an interesting start to my life, that's for sure.
Fantastic. And Dad was from?
Dad's from Morocco. Mum's from the Czech Republic. Mum was born here. Dad got here in his early 20s. They're wonderful parents. Absolutely wonderful parents.
How did you get involved in cricket?
Cricket's an interesting sport because I started as a tennis coach. So I started heavily into tennis. So I started playing tennis at 6. Was playing competitive tennis at quite a young age, just Saturday stuff, and then started doing coaching at around about 13, 14. But I worked, my coach where I worked was at Northcote Aquatic Centre, and that was next to the cricket oval, which is where I would walk my dogs. I'd often go down the nets and just have a bowl while the dogs were running around. I'm assuming Mum and Dad knew that, but they probably didn't. So you're finding out now. Definitely watching the dogs, definitely. But I would just go in the nets and have a bowl. And I then picked up a few friends from the nets who I just bowled them and have a bit of fun. Didn't own any kit. I'd often go down there with my dad and he'd just go down with a bat and I'd bowl to him. That soon stopped until when I hit him on the shin, and I don't think we ever went to the nets ever again. And then about 17, I was just down there and dentists were training, and they said, "Oh, why don't you come back and join us?" I was walking my dogs, and he said, "Oh, why don't you come back and join us?" And I'm going, "Okay, I'll come back." And within 12 months, I'd quit tennis and I was coaching the under 15s, which I'd never coached cricket before, and was their first under 15s at the club, and that was where pretty much cricket began. So I was quite a late bloomer. In terms of my cricket life.
Yeah, you must have taken to it pretty quick.
I was really lucky that I grew up with some pretty talented players, and they kind of shaped the way I played the game, because I didn't particularly like getting hit out of the net, so I stopped bowling pace and started bowling spin. I also had a back injury from tennis, but that we'll leave that. But the story sounds a lot better when I try and rip the ball past batsman. And that's ultimately where I started bowling spin, and I will hit the ball quick, and I just loved it. It was one of those things that you just sort of sit there and go, well, I've always got a ball in my hand. I never didn't have a ball in my hand. I remember being 12 years old, or I was walking through the Ivanhoe Mall, and I was just running up and down bowling. It was the weirdest. And my mum would just go, "What are you doing?" She was like, "I don't know. It's just, sometimes things are just meant to be." And trust me, I've tried to get away from the sport plenty of times. It just sucks me back in. I tried to have a year off last year and it didn't work. So some things are just meant to be, I guess.
How long were you at the Dennis Cricket Club?
So I started there, as I said, when I was 17. I think I played 3 years before I left, or 3 to 4 years before I left. I captained the 2s in my second year of playing. Luckily got a flag, which I think I was a little bit carried there. I look back now and look at the list and go, back then I thought I was pretty smart, but I had a pretty talented list. When the first 11 side pretty much goes undefeated for the year, your second 11 side should be pretty strong, because I reckon we had maybe 5 selection changes all year. And then from there, I went to Northcote for a season, and then came back to captain coach Dennis for a couple of years. So you
played at Northcote in the probably what year would that have been about?
2007, 8 or something like that, somewhere around somewhere around there.
With my grandson, Michael.
Yeah, Michael, good leg spinner. Michael was.
Yeah, I can remember both of you bowling in a couple of games together. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was good fun. It was good fun. I think I might have got him on a few occasions. Might have taken a couple more wickets than him on occasion. But oh look, I loved Northcote. I absolutely loved my time there. The boys there were fantastic. Even some of the senior guys, you know, they were really supportive of me. And I was fresh-eyed. I had no idea what it was. You know, you remember I was 4 years into cricket. I had no idea what Premier Cricket was. All I knew is that I spent my life driving past Bill Laurie Oval. And go, gee, I wouldn't mind playing there. Only played one game on it though, to be fair. But it was it was a really good experience, and Michael was a lot of fun to play with.
How did you find your way to Preston?
Ash Gannon was the assistant coach the year I was at Northcote. I went down with a shoulder injury, so I had a workplace. Well, it was kind of a combined cricket and workplace incident. I was bowling for probably 8 hours a week before the season would even be, before the weekend would even begin. And so that combined with the increased fielding, and then I already had a niggle, and then I was climbing down the side of a scaffold in wet conditions and slipped and grabbed quite hard with my right arm, and I heard my shoulder pop, and I had torn my labrum. So I had a 2.5 inch tear of my labrum. So I was down for 2 years. I had to scrounge up the money to get surgery, and then I went to find a home on turf. I went to find a home on turf. I tried Ivanhoe. I tried Preston in the past. And then Ash called me out of the blue. Ash called me. I said, I'm going to Preston. I'm going to be the head coach. I'd like you to come with us. I said, well, I'm about to have surgery. I'm about to have surgery in about 3 weeks. I'm going to be out for the season. He says, that's okay. Whenever you're ready, you come. And I remember this. I was living in Thornbury on Victoria Road, and I got a phone call from John Hyde, and I think Michael Hayes may have called me as well. I got a few phone calls. I was feeling pretty special about myself. And that's how I ended up at Preston. Ash Gannon became the head coach, and I followed him, and I played after Christmas.
So you finished up playing in the first, seconds, thirds, and I think it maybe even one or two games in the fourth, but you played about 80 odd games for the club as a player. Your best season in the ones was 15-16 when you took 29 wickets, which is a fair return for a leggy, particularly the amount of one-day cricket that's sort of played in subbies. Great season.
Helps when your best mate's your captain. He kept me on for a little while.
Yeah. You with your passion for cricket, you also got involved in coaching. You did say you started coaching at a very young age, but you got formal coaching qualifications as well. What are you, a tier 2? Is it?
So I'm a level 2, Cricket Australia accredited coach. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were appointed coach for 4 years at Preston, 4 consecutive years. Yeah. For somebody so young, were you playing for that entire period?
I tried in the first 2 years, and it became difficult. It became difficult. I found my passion for other people's success and the club success was far more important.
Yeah.
And it really did affect my training. It affected my ability to get consistency. Those people who know leg spin, you've got to bowl a lot of balls. And unfortunately, I just couldn't do that. And I'm not very good at compartmentalizing. So in terms of being able to be at training and focus on just my bowling, I was looking around, making sure that everyone's productive and they're well supported in the best way that I know how is keeping standards high and educating and also at that time we were bringing in a lot of young kids, and I felt responsible for that as well, making sure that they had a really positive experience. Because I was their conduit in out of the JG Craig and the academy programs. I was their conduit in, so I felt really responsible for that. And So unfortunately, yeah, my time playing sort of waned, and I haven't really got it back since. My passion for coaching is probably top of mind most of the time now.
Yep. So you're a real student of the game as such.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love watching people grow. One of my most fascinating things about coaching is when you get a player and they look like and they understand the game at one point, and then 6 weeks later, 2 years later, you look back and you just go, wow, you've come an incredible way. And I get that sort of external view on that. And also, there's an innateness to coaching. I think coaching is similar to being a player, is that you're either in form or you're not sometimes. And I love playing with that. I love trying to work my way through challenges. Some players are a little bit more difficult. They're harder nuts to crack. And you've got to help them break down some of their emotional barriers and some of their barriers on their expectations and things like that. And some of them are really free-flowing cricketers. They don't think about the game too much. They just see the ball and they hit the ball, or they'll just bowl the ball. They just understand how to take wickets because that's how they grew up. You know, the old backyard cricketer who just knows how to take wickets. And working with them to help them go to a different level or think about the game differently. It's a real thrill.
What do you enjoy most about coaching?
I'd say the challenge when it comes to young players more so than the older player, because you're working with players with more of a blank canvas, and you can really challenge them on their views and kind of go, well, you view the game this way. How do we get you to view the game a little bit differently? Not because we need you to be a different player, but because the game demands you to be adaptive. The game demands of you to have different plans and to change the plans on a run if you need to, you know, and just helping. It's an incredibly rewarding thing to walk into a net and someone's having a hard time, and you pull them out and you can see that it's really given them a knock of their confidence, and you just do a quick drill with them or you have a chat with them, and they walk away feeling better about themselves, whether it's technically or mentally. I think sport plays a large role in mental health and supporting people, especially young people, to believe that, yeah, life's hard, but there are also great moments where you can triumph and overcome, and you just need to guide them to a certain place to believe that. And there's a great level of joy in that. And I love working with motivated people. You know, I've got some really motivated young players now hitting a lot of balls, and have been for 5 weeks. You know, I've got a young player who's been hitting balls probably 4 days a week, and it's his progress has been phenomenal. You know, we're talking about a player who, quote unquote, a friend of his said, oh, he couldn't hit the ball a year ago. And now he's facing what I call the pink sidearm, which is a sidearm that probably goes about 115, 120. This is a 15-year-old boy who's barely hit a ball in 12 months ago, and he doesn't miss the ball. You know, that's incredibly rewarding. Yes. And to think that I played a small role in that is, yeah, that's why you do the job.
Yeah. Do you focus much on technique, or just allow, for example, the batter to play his natural game and you just sort of tinker with it? Is that your approach?
I'd like to think that my approach is malleable based on the person. So here's a good example. We've got 2 young players play. We'll call one Jack and we'll call one Ben. Jack is coming from a place of, he's a smaller body. He needs technique to help find confidence and things like that. So technique is the path that I went down with him. Whereas Ben, he's already hitting ball really well, unconventionally, but really, really well. So we do implicit drills where the drill itself will teach him to hit better areas without trying to cloud his judgment of, you know, where the ball is at his instinctive play, because that's his strength. So I think the balance between the two is incredibly important, but at its core, the player will ultimately dictate where they go. You can overcoach all you like, but the player will ultimately dictate it. So there's no point trying to fight that. So you asking questions of them, presenting problems to them is really the best way for them to develop. And sometimes it's just important to go weeks without giving them answers. Allow frustration to fester, because I believe that frustration, when worked through really well and supported, turns into a problem-solving moment. And then you get the aha moments out of that.